Have you ever had one of those moments where you just stop, look around at your life, and feel like you're, I don't know, running on a treadmill that someone else built?
Oh, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
you're just going through the motions.
Right. You wake up, you do the job, you pay the bills, you participate in society, and you kind of can't help but wonder if there's an off switch hidden somewhere.
Yeah, way out of the loop.
Exactly. We all look for that escape hatch from the modern grind, and today we are looking at a text that claims to have drawn a literal, actionable map directly to that hatch. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled to have you joining us.
We are. And the source we're examining today is an English translation of a 2010 text authored by Zui Feng. It's titled Breaking Free from Chains and Embracing Freedom.
Which is quite a bold title.
It really is. And it functions as this highly specific, meticulous framework for basically exiting what we might call the typical human condition.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the mission today is to really dissect this philosophical roadmap. The text outlines a deliberate journey from what it calls the kingdom of necessity, which is that profound feeling of suffering, constraint, and being just a tiny cog in a massive machine, to the kingdom of freedom.
Which the text straightforwardly equates to heaven.
Right, heaven. It claims to offer the key to unlocking the invisible walls of our societal escape room.
Before we dive into the architecture of this roadmap, though, I think it's vital to establish our parameters for this discussion.
Definitely.
We are going to explore some deeply specific spiritual, cosmological, and societal claims made by the author. So our role today is purely objective analysis. We are not validating, endorsing, or taking sides regarding the cosmology or the practices described here.
Yeah, we're just laying it out.
Exactly. Our objective is simply to impartially examine the logic, the structures, and the fascinating ideas contained within the source material so you can fully understand the argument being presented.
We are essentially acting as your tour guides through the philosophy. So, to start, if we are going to talk about a map, we really need to understand the destination.
We do.
When someone drops the word heaven, most of us immediately picture the exact same thing, floating on clouds, playing a harp, basically a serene post-mortem waiting room.
Which is precisely the expectation this text attempts to dismantle.
Really?
Yeah. The framework does not treat heaven as this elusive, intangible, or mysterious state that you can only hope to achieve after you die. It is not framed as a dreamlike illusion at all.
Okay, so what is it then?
Instead, the author insists that heaven is an undeniable lived reality that can be accessed right now. The text uses various terms for it: the celestial realm, Buddha's land, the other shore, higher-level life spaces.
That's a lot of titles.
It is, yeah. But the crucial anchor is a concept the text calls the second home, which was established by a community known as Lifechanyuan.
Wait, let's pause on that. Because the text presents Lifechanyuan not just as abstract theory, but as an active philosophy. Claiming you have built or can access heaven on earth as a tangible space is a massive hurdle for the modern skeptical mind to clear.
Oh, for sure.
So is the text arguing for a literal, physical, utopian commune, or is this just like a heightened psychological state?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the author deliberately blurs the boundary between the physical and the psychological. It is presented as a progressive journey rather than an instantaneous light switch.
Meaning you don't just walk through physical gates into heaven.
Right, you don't.
Yeah.
The logic suggests that by adopting the specific principles of Lifechanyuan and actually living them out, inhabitants gradually alter their reality. The physical environment and the internal psychological state reinforce each other.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the author insists that facts speak louder than words and claims that the inhabitants of the second home have validated this reality through firsthand experience. So the destination is experienced along the journey itself.
So the premise is that this tangible, accessible heaven exists, and the experience of it can begin before you die.
Exactly.
If we accept that premise for a moment, the obvious question for anyone listening is, well, why are we still stuck in traffic on a Tuesday morning? What is keeping us locked in the kingdom of necessity?
The author answers that by pointing to two massive obstacles categorized in the text as the two mountains. To reach the kingdom of freedom, you must climb over both.
Okay.
The first mountain consists of what the text calls inevitable programs.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. Because when you use the phrase inevitable programs, I instantly think of the default operating system on a smartphone.
Oh yeah, that's a great comparison.
Right, like the bloatware that runs in the background, draining your battery, dictating how the device functions, and you aren't even allowed to delete it.
That in a highly accurate way to visualize the author's argument. In this framework, the bloatware consists of the fundamental building blocks of human social order.
So societal structures.
Yes, the text explicitly targets institutions like marriage, family, ethnicity, the nation-state, religion, and political parties.
Mm.
The assertion is that to reach heaven, you must transcend every single one of these programs.
Which is a staggering ask. I mean, when we talk about self-improvement, the advice is usually additive.
Right, like build better habits.
Yeah, meditate more, find your community, connect deeper with your family. This text is demanding we systematically uninstall the foundational pillars of human identity. Why does the author view something as universal as family or nationality as a toxic program that needs to be deleted?
It comes down to the underlying concept of necessity. Within the logic of the text, these institutions are the very chains that bind your energy to the mortal world.
Because they demand things from you.
Exactly. You participate in marriage, provide for a family, or defend a nation-state because you feel a biological, economic, or social obligation to do so. You're reacting to the demands of the material realm.
So you're tethered to the ground by your own duties.
Yes. The argument posits that as long as your time, energy, and consciousness are tied up in maintaining these survival-based earthly structures, your spiritual state cannot elevate.
Uninstalling society makes sense on a purely logistical level if your goal is zero earthly obligations. But, I mean, you could drop off the grid tomorrow, move to an isolated cabin in the woods, shed your nationality, and still be completely miserable if your own mind is a mess.
Oh, absolutely.
Does the text address the internal baggage we carry?
It does, and that brings us to the second mountain. The text vividly labels this internal obstacle the Egypt of the soul.
Egypt of the soul. That is such an evocative phrase. We're talking about an internal exile, then.
Yeah, drawing on the historical and mythological associations of Egypt as a place of bondage and slavery. The author uses the term to represent our internal impurities.
What kind of impurities?
The text provides a comprehensive list of these mental chains: jealousy, comparison, resentment, arrogance, anger, possession, control, hatred, dogma. It even lists greed and laziness.
Let's bring this right into the everyday experience of the listener. Think about how much of your daily exhaustion comes from carrying these two mountains.
It's a lot of weight.
It's immense. You spend half your day wrestling with the first mountain, managing societal expectations, family drama, your identity in the workplace. Then you spend the other half wrestling with the second mountain, scrolling through social media, comparing your life to others, or holding on to old resentments.
And the text asserts that these internal traits are just as binding as a marriage contract or a passport. Your own jealousy and greed hold you hostage in the kingdom of necessity. Overcoming them requires nothing less than a complete mental exodus.
So we have the diagnosis. We are chained by societal structures and enslaved by our own toxic internal traits. How do we actually execute this exodus? Because physical effort clearly isn't the answer. You cannot hike your way out of a mountain of resentment.
Right, which shifts our focus to the mechanism of the escape. How do you conquer these mountains? The text argues that mere behavioral changes or physical isolation are entirely insufficient.
Okay, so what is required?
The escape requires a radical fundamental shift in consciousness. The author emphasizes this by stating, "The three realms are but mind, and all laws are but consciousness."
Oh, wow.
And another key assertion is that reality is the projection of consciousness.
If reality is a projection of consciousness, that implies the mountains themselves, the weight of society, and our internal baggage are essentially generated, or at least maintained, by our own minds.
That is the core argument. The text frames breaking free from these chains entirely around attaining enlightenment.
Because then you stop projecting them.
Exactly. With enlightenment, the text claims these obstacles dissolve because you no longer project or attach to them. Without it, you remain in darkness. The logic is that you can practice endless physical rituals or isolate yourself completely, but without that fundamental shift in awareness, you will never reach heaven.
But then the text drops the syllabus for what constitutes enlightenment, and I have to say, it reads like a prerequisite list for a PhD in cosmic physics.
Yeah, the cosmological requirements are indeed expansive.
Tell them what's on the list.
Well, to be enlightened, the text states you must deeply understand 20 parallel worlds and 36 dimensional spaces.
Wait, 36?
Yes, 36. You also have to grasp the essence of time and space, the origins of the universe, the origins of life itself, humanity's place in the cosmos, and the scientific principles of reincarnation.
I have to pause here. 36 dimensional spaces. I can barely navigate my three-dimensional living room in the dark without stubbing my toe on the coffee table.
It sounds daunting for sure.
How does a framework that demands we understand 36 dimensions actually function on a practical level?
If we connect this to the broader cosmology of the text, the author posits a universe layered in different vibrations or energy states.
Yeah.
Our standard 3D world is viewed as just one of the densest, most sluggish layers.
Okay, that makes sense.
The underlying logic is that to escape the kingdom of necessity, you have to lighten your energetic load. Shedding those societal and internal chains we discussed allows your consciousness to access the higher 35 dimensions.
Think of it as a hot air balloon, right? Your earthly attachments and resentments are the sandbags holding the basket down. You have to cut them loose to rise.
That is a perfect analogy.
I see the logic of the hot air balloon. But asking a normal person who is just trying to pay their rent and keep their life together to individually calculate the spiritual physics of a 36-dimensional universe, that feels like setting an impossible standard.
And the author actually anticipates that exact reaction and completely agrees.
Wait, really? The text admits it's impossible.
It does. The source explicitly states that achieving this level of enlightenment purely through your own personal effort, knowledge, and wisdom is nearly impossible.
Okay, well, that's a relief.
Yeah, it acknowledges that a human life is simply too short, and our individual time and energy are far too limited to discover and map all of this out from scratch.
So we are back in the escape room. We know the door is locked. We know we need a 36-dimensional key. And now we're being told we don't have enough time to forge it ourselves. How is this a practical roadmap?
This is where Shufeng introduces the practical solution to the impossibility of the task, a highly curated shortcut.
A shortcut?
Yes. The text argues that because an individual cannot master all this alone, enlightenment requires standing on the shoulders of giants. It advocates drawing from the collective wisdom of humanity's greatest sages, saints, and enlightened beings.
Looks like who, for example?
The source specifically integrates the teachings of Jesus, Buddha, Laozi, and Muhammad and aligns them with the laws discovered by modern scientists.
The author is essentially saying, don't worry, I did the homework for you.
Exactly.
He claims to have synthesized thousands of years of global spiritual and scientific exploration into the teachings of Lifechanyuan. It's like being handed the ultimate cheat code for cosmic enlightenment. Centuries of trial and error boiled down into a few actionable principles to save the reader time.
That is the pitch.
Uh,
By following this distilled roadmap, the text promises that your spiritual aspirations can be realized without spending 40 years meditating in an isolated cave trying to invent the wheel. It frames this curated path as a blessing, designed to bypass the impossible learning curve.
But this creates a massive philosophical friction point for me. Earlier, we discussed the second mountain, the Egypt of the soul, and the text demanded that we purge ourselves of dogma. That was a prerequisite for freedom.
It was, yes.
But now it's asking the reader to accept a highly specific 36-dimensional cosmology curated by one single author. How does the text reconcile telling you to drop all beliefs while simultaneously handing you a massive new belief system to swallow?
This raises an important question, and it highlights perhaps the most surprising nuance in the entire source. You would expect a text making such sweeping, ultimate cosmological claims to demand absolute allegiance.
Right, to declare, we are the one and only flawless truth, do not question us.
Exactly. But the author explicitly says, not necessarily.
It actually leaves room for doubt?
It does. The text states that given the current state of human development and understanding, the values and practices of Lifechanyuan are relatively comprehensive and rational. However, it includes a strict, explicit warning against turning Lifechanyuan into a new religion or an ideological dictatorship.
So it is actively resisting becoming the very inevitable program it just told you to escape from.
Precisely. The author insists that to strive for perfection, the theoretical understanding must be continually tested and validated through ongoing practice. It demands that followers maintain an open mind, embrace new ideas, and constantly measure the teachings against reality to ensure they are actually breaking chains, not just forging new ones under a different name.
So what does this all mean? Let's zoom out and look at the entire map we've explored today.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
We started in the kingdom of necessity, our daily grind, our societal obligations, our internal suffering, and traced a path toward the kingdom of freedom, an accessible, lived experience of heaven.
A path that requires conquering two massive mountains. First, shedding the external chains of society, like nationality, traditional family structures, and political affiliations.
And second, purging the internal chains of our own ego, the Egypt of the soul, leaving behind jealousy, greed, and dogma.
All of which is achieved not by brute physical force, but through a radical shift in consciousness, aided by a synthesized cheat code of global wisdom.
And crucially, a cheat code that asks you to remain skeptical and open-minded rather than falling into a new dogmatic trap.
Ultimately, regardless of whether one accepts the specifics of 36-dimensional spaces or the Lifechanyuan community framework, this text functions as an incredibly sharp mirror.
He really does.
It forces a rigorous examination of the structures we accept as default. It asks you to look at your societal roles, your resentments, and your daily obligations, and question which of these are true necessities and which are just chains you've grown entirely too comfortable wearing.
It makes you look at the walls of your own life and wonder who actually built them. Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you, our listener, to ponder on your own. We've spent this time talking about the sheer scale of what the text demands you strip away.
That is massive.
If you successfully manage to completely uninstall every inevitable program the text mentions, meaning you entirely erase your family ties, you abandon your nationality, your cultural history, your religious background, and you purge every familiar human emotion like jealousy, anger, or even intentionality, what kind of self is actually left behind to experience that ultimate freedom?
Yeah.
Does absolute freedom require the complete erasure of who we think we are?
That is a challenging paradox to navigate.
Maybe true escape isn't about finding the door out of the room. Maybe it's about realizing that the you that feels trapped was just another program all along. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been fantastic exploring this roadmap with you.
Thank you for listening. Keep questioning your frameworks and keep exploring.